right now on Amplified.
We're facing a great challenge here in engineering because we're facing a housing crisis, a climate change crisis, a biodiversity crisis. We need everyone on board to help us with that, and we need different points of views and a diversity of thought for new solutions.
Hi there, my name is Dusty Rhodes and you're welcome to Amplified, the Engineers Journal podcast. Our guest today is the technical force behind major projects, including the Sustainable Swords Strategy. He's also an award-winning leader in EDI and has chaired the Engineers Ireland Inclusion and Diversity Society. We'll be learning about the power of specialisation beyond technical skills, navigating real-world project complexity, and hearing about the skills that you may need to transition from engineer to leadership. It's a pleasure to welcome Chartered Transportation Engineer and Associate Director at DBFL Consulting Engineers, Danny Pio Murphy.
Oh, it's a pleasure anyway.
How did you get into our engineering?
Well, the thing, I always wanted a career where I was continuously learning and having expert knowledge across many multiple subjects and fields, and real complex problem solving and challenging problems, and having real meaningful real life results and impacts, where no one day is the same and I'm always engaged and mentally stimulated. I was actually thinking of going into medicine, but engineering pulled me in anyway, strangely enough, because it's particularly transport, it's just so dynamic and it's constantly ever evolving, and it's just where it's so many things in terms of innovation, technology, modeling techniques, planning. So it's really where I feel my authentic self in it anyway. So that's what really drew me into it.
Let me get an idea of you, Danny, and talk about kind of one of the projects that you're probably best known for, and that's the Sustainable Swords Strategy. Tell me what the strategy is.
So Swords is going to become a city of 100,000 people, and you're going to be getting major infrastructure, being the Metrolink and the Bus Connects infrastructure, but you also have the R13 connectivity project, which is the bypass along Swords is going to be turned into a street. But they wanted to come up with a strategy where Swords can actually evolve into that a modern European city in a sustainable way. So where I came in was we started with a multidisciplinary team anyway, with public realm consultants, communication consultants, environmental as well. So we came in just to have a look at this anyway. So this strategy came with different things where Swords could be a compact city, a livable city. It would be having a lot of sustainable modes of transport for all of the residents, from the outskirts to the core, and basically a lot of the streets would evolve into kind of multimodal corridors. There would be a more realized cycle network there, and a lot of permeability for residents, for particularly vulnerable users. And it was a good project anyway, because we got to engage. It wasn't just that we were spearheading it technically, we also got feedback from the public as well.
What was the feedback from the public?
So we had first a pre-design one, a public consultation, where we went into schools, we did a public consultation, and we got hundreds of responses seeing where the public would want, how they want to evolve their city anyway, and where they want improvements in the public realm and in transport as well. So the schools were particularly good anyway, because I think we got nearly 800 responses there. But that wasn't the only place we got feedback. We went to the businesses as well. We went to the shopping centre and for public evenings. And we also went to vulnerable user and disability groups and residents associations. And then when we kind of got all of that feedback, we kind of filled in the missing pieces. And then once we kind of came up with a draft strategy, we went out to the public again and got their feedback and refined it after that anyway. So it was very well received. And it was particularly challenging because it was during COVID times as well. So we had to be hyper vigilant anyway for safety and the public. But we did manage to get in person when lockdown was when lockdown restrictions were lifted.
Can I ask you, because you mentioned that you went into schools and you're planning about how life is going to be in Swords over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Mm-hmm. When you say you went into schools, did you use the school as a venue, or did you actually talk to the kids who are, teenagers or younger now and will be the adults who will benefit from this project in the future?
Yes, we did. We did workshops with the kids anyway, through the communication consultant anyway, and on Tashka, Green Schools. And it was great because we did it in such a way that the kids come up with their own ideas and what they see for the future. And that was actually quite good as well, because some of that feedback we got to show the adults as well. So adults got a real perspective that the generations coming up behind us, this is what they want to see the future, and this is what they want to see their city be evolve into.
So this is interesting. What was it they were saying that they wanted to see?
Yeah, they were saying that they want safer routes to school, cycle tracks. They wanted more public transport, and actually more greening around our town as well. And they were very environmentally conscious as well. They were saying that they wanted more seating areas and greening. Yeah, it was really good to hear that anyway. They're always so positive, the kids.
Very, very unusual. And then with the adults, where you would almost kind of guess what responses they make. And one thing I've learned is that when you go and ask the public stuff and you assume this, you always get something different back. What surprised you from the response from adults?
Surprisingly enough, adults were actually quite similar as well. They were more focused on the public transport side and maintaining kind of the roads, and the one thing that they're always vigilant about is parking. So it was very strange. The town core, I think there was about 10-15% of the surface area of the town core was dedicated to car parking. So so they were hyper vigilant about that. But and also a lot of them would have safety concerns. But the one thing going back to the kids was there was a lot of parents that wanted safe infrastructure for their kids to kind of get to school. A lot of parents just want their kids to be independent and safe as well. Mm-hmm.
That's a good design plan for any town. Now that you have all of that research back and you've had all the feedback now, what is the engineering challenge that you're facing to make it happen?
Well, that's actually quite interesting because in the next 3 to 5 years, there's about 10 to 15 transport projects to build this town anyway. And I recently was working with Fingal County Council to kind of see how we can kind of fit all of the different pieces, who could build what and where. And now with Metrolink coming online soon enough, it's added a little bit of complexity. So it was, it's very good anyway, because they're getting their public realm schemes in at the moment, and then the R132 is just to come online soon, and Metrolink. So we came up with a traffic management plan which will benefit of the town anyway, and make sure it's still functional and operational.
How is the Metrolink going to complicate things? Is that running overground or underground through Swords?
It is on a mixture of both anyway. It will be a bit difficult anyway. One of the things that we have to get through is the R132, which is the road corridor that I was saying that has to turn into a street. At the moment, it's a dual carriageway, and people are still using it dangerously without footpaths, crossing the road, cyclists going along it. So that has to be upgraded to a street before Metrolink comes in. So we had to design all of that road link, and we got planning permission for that, and it's going out to tender at the moment. So hopefully that'll be start building that soon.
So how long is all of this going to take you? I mean, what kind of duration are you looking for the project? Is it something over the next immediate years, 2-3 years, or are you looking at a much longer timescale?
For the R132, that would be around 3 years, 2 years actually. Then for the other project around Swords, it's up to 2040. So there is a good time frame there, but it's all going to be phased in anyway.
And what about when you're looking overall at, because I mean, it's great if you have a greenfield site or brownfield site or whichever, you're literally looking at a blank canvas and then off you go, right? But you're not. You're looking at a town that has grown from, a small village maybe 50 years ago, and it's now a colossally huge population center. And now you're in there meddling, redesigning everything. What are the problems for you kind of thinking as on an engineering level, working with an existing town?
Yeah, there's a lot of complications and considerations you have to consider. Basically, you have to think of everything above ground anyway, and you have to think of all of the different stakeholders. Number one, so you have the residents, you have all of the public operators, you have the vulnerable users, and the people that need inclusive designs and universal designs. And then you're working with that, and then you're trying to bring in kind of sustainable infrastructure as well. How do you retrofit it, and how do you reallocate space? And then you have to do it within guidance documents and standards and policy documents from either from the national government, regional guidance, or the local county council guidance as well. So there's a lot of interconnected things there. And then you also have to work with other consultants as well, where you would just have to, I could only see the technical side of things, but say a public realm consultant gives it the more aesthetic and the livability and the placemaking part of it as well. And then working with civil engineers, you have to think of what's underground that has to be redesigned as well. We have quite a lot of deteriorating infrastructure underneath the grounds that we have to update as well. So there's opportunities there. And also we have to think about sustainable urban drainage systems as well. So it's a very complicated system as well. And then that's only for the design stage, but then when you try to get to the construction stage, then you have to kind of think more there as well. How is this going to be constructed? How is it going to be built? And then what's the temporary effects on local residents and everything like that? And that's the complexities a lot with it.
So let me ask your experience then on the complete flip side of what's going on in Swords, which is an established town. And let's talk about Plumburroughs, which is kind of, I mean, it's a huge, huge site. It's between Lucan, Clondalkin, the Grand Canal, that kind of an area. It's 280 hectares. And that is more of it's a strategic development zone, if I'm not mistaken. And you're going at that from scratch.
Yeah, so it's a really rare thing in for an engineer to have a greenfield site where you just have a blank canvas and you can just go have a great creative experience there anyway. So with Plumburroughs anyway, my company DBFL were commissioned to do the preliminary designs up to the construction and delivery of them anyway. So we designed every single junction in the town. The town is going to have over 23,000 residents and about 25,000 jobs. So you can just get a sense of how big this new town is going to be. And there was because it's a strategic development zone, there was a plan that was approved by onboard at the time. So we had to follow that, but we had to do the actual hands-on designs. And the good thing about this was we actually did designs that weren't introduced into Ireland before. We had to do protected cycle infrastructure, signalized junctions. We had, before there was the cycle design manual came on board. So we were doing new designs and testing them out here anyway and constructing them, which was a privilege actually for an engineer to do, and bringing in new technology to make the intelligent transport systems more functional and efficient as well, and also bringing in permeability filters. And when we were building it as well, we came across things that, all right, this doesn't seem to work, but we've translated back to the National Transport Authority, and they included that feedback into their cycle design manual. So it was very insightful to do that. As I said, it was a blank canvas, and bringing in new type of infrastructure in Ireland was quite good.
So when you look at swords and when you look at plumburroughs and you're dealing with a very established area and then you've got a greenfield area, what's the difference between the two?
The difference between the two is that it's less complicated.
Yeah.
But actually, I prefer the ones where it's in swords anyway, because then you kind of get you get the public interactions and everything like that, and their buy-in as well, because there's a lot of things that we as engineers we can see on paper, and we're following standards, but the local knowledge is indispensable at times, and you can include that in your designs. And when people get the buy-in as well, they're very supportive. And then again, when you're doing the greenfield site, as I said, you're trying something out for the very first time, but then you don't get that kind of feedback of if it's working or not.
You've had two brilliant projects, two huge projects, two completely different projects. Did you approach either or both of them with new tools in engineering? Have you got new? I always, in sound engineering, I always call them new toys. But I mean, was it because when you're working with something new like that, you're able to actually do new things that have never been done before? Did you use any new tools or any new methods?
What we used anyway was, in terms of kind of doing the designs and seeing if it was function, we did new modeling techniques anyway, and we did new calculations behind all of that to see, look, this isn't in our standards anyway. We need to see, look, is this workable? That's what we did. We did a very intelligent modeling framework as well, where we modeled swords and all of the different projects that were underneath that. We put it into a regional model to see what's the regional effect. We put it into a local area model to see what's the whole area effect. And we did a micro simulation of the town as well, which is still being used today. And it's very intelligent and very visual. And they're all interactive with each other. So that's where kind of the innovation came in there. And when it comes to other kind of techniques, for the intelligent transport system for plumburroughs, we proposed, and what's going to be built in to it anyway, is a lot of cycling loops and cycling signals that weren't really done before, and how would they be worked in as well, and micro detectors as well to see where to give more green time to pedestrians so that they can go across very busy junctions as well. So that's where we kind of brought in some innovation there.
So in your view then, Danny, what do you reckon is the single biggest factor in both of those different projects that decides in your head if the project is a success or a failure?
I would think it's how well it's used anyway. There's a lot of schemes that I've used where that I have designed or kind of retrofitted, and we did kind of monitoring testing afterwards anyway, and maybe in-person surveys, and where you get the feedback from the public and say that, look, this has improved our situation, our journey time. You see the data as well, where cycling has gone up along a route, or you could see kids are staying in an actual place and it's more comfortable, and you get feedback from people, vulnerable users, and people that are visually impaired or hearing impaired, and they're getting good feedback saying that, look, this is more a safer scheme for us. So that's where the success is anyway, where it's the common good that is being felt by the community.
I kind of wanted to ask you about your career, because, I mean, sustainable transportation is a huge thing for you and those projects are great. I want to ask about your career, because a lot of what you've done has focused on inclusion and diversity as well, okay? Why did you decide to champion that work?
Well, it's before I went into engineering, I was actually an LGBTQ plus activist for 9 years. Mm-hmm. And basically, and I'm also an openly queer man as well. And basically, it was a passion of mine just to kind of get greater rights. And I had a heavy focus on well-being and giving lectures around all of Ireland and in the UK as well. And then when after marriage equality, things kind of transitioned into a more normal life for me anyway. Yeah. And I focused on my career and my chartership anyway. But there was always, when I was around the table with people from many different backgrounds, you would hear the things that their barriers that they face, the challenges that they face. And particularly in my career in transport, you hear that as well with a lot of users. And I hear that in our industry as well. And that's why I got into it anyway. And it's really very important to me that we have full inclusion within the industry anyway.
A lot of people would think, as you say, since the marriage referendum, things did change. I mean, Ireland today is completely different from where it was 30 years ago, or even the turn of the century. My God, did I actually say the turn of the century 25 years ago? But what are the challenges that are still being faced today?
Well, again, for gender diversity, you have a lot of barriers still felt by women, and there's still a lack of knowledge about gender identity as well. And then for the LGBTQ plus community, look, half of them are in the closet in engineering. From actual studies, and that's because of fear of coming out and just not feeling safe around their colleagues. And then you also have small bits of lack of cultural knowledge, age diversity as well is coming up. And again, it's a lot of things. And of course, a big thing that's always with engineering is it attracts a lot of neurodiversity as well. So there's a lot of dyslexia and ADHD and autism that are represented in engineering as well, but they're not known and how to include them as well. And also in engineering as well, when it comes to disability, there's a lack of knowledge of that and a lack of reasonable accommodation to provide for people with that, employees with that. I'm
kind of struck thinking again in this day and age and where society is at the moment, that people don't feel safe. What do you mean by they don't feel safe?
Again, it's just when you, for example, anyway, now this doesn't happen anymore anyway.
Oh, good.
But my first job interview anyway, I actually had LGBT on my CV, and basically the person that was doing the interview with me didn't read my CV, and then when they got there, they just they stopped for 10 seconds in silence, and they were very uncomfortable seeing that I was an LGBT activist, and I didn't get the job. Yeah. And that was 10 years ago anyway. And that stuck with me. And there's a lot, and I'm hearing from a lot of people that they just hear there's a culture of that they don't feel that they can be their authentic selves in the workplace. They don't feel safe.
Okay. So you mean that it's not that don't feel safe as in there's no physical threat or anything, but they don't feel secure.
They don't feel secure to be their authentic selves anyway, that they have to hide a part of themselves, and which is very unfortunate anyway, because diversity is a fact anyway, but inclusion is absolutely necessary.
Danny, let me ask you about EDI at your own company, DBFL Consulting Engineers. You've won an award for how you handle inclusion and diversity. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it was a 5-year journey anyway. So we recently got gold accreditation in Investors for Diversity by the Irish Centre for Diversity. And it's an amazing distinction because it's only held by 28 organizations in the country. And it was such an amazing journey anyway. So it started off 5 years ago, where we just had a kind of a strategy, and based on my research from a thesis I did in college, and we had a team come together anyway, and we became a committee. And from that, we came with a good strategy based on 5 pillars, based on inclusive leadership, how we operate, policies, recruitment and retention, and how we develop. And of course, how do we monitor our progress in EDI as well, and data collection. And of course, how do we have an impact externally as well. So from that anyway, we came up with a very innovative thing where we have about 12 driver groups in the organization, and each driver contributes to the company's development, its strategy, and its processes anyway. So 2/3 of the company are actually directly involved in the actual, how the company operates anyway. So from that anyway, we have a very inclusive culture, and we do so many initiatives and events as well. And we have as well a women's network and a cultural diversity network. The stats are also very good as well. We started at a very low female employee base, but now we're up to a quarter now over 5 years. For LGBT representation, it's gone from just under 4% up to 10% because they felt more included. And 60% of the company are under the age of 40 as well. And it's a really dynamic, and we're represented by nearly 30 countries as well and nationalities. So it was really empowering to see that. And externally as well, we've been getting involved with a lot of Engineers Ireland for greater diversity and inclusion, the Association of Consulting Engineers of Ireland as well. We're part of their EDI charter. And of course, we get involved with many external organizations, including community charity events as well. So it's just a great thing that we're having there anyway. And I think the Irish Centre for Diversity had a metric there of inclusivity score, and we got 85%. We were 10% higher than any other on the industry average, and I think about 15% higher on a national average. So it's doing something great in DBFL EDI. It's part of one of our core values, inclusivity. And when you don't have inclusion anyway, you don't retain the diversity in your industry anyway. And we're facing a great challenge here in engineering because we're facing a housing crisis, a climate change crisis, a biodiversity crisis, and we need everyone on board to help us with that. And and we need different points of views and a diversity of thought for new solutions and new thoughts of how to tackle these anyway. But if we're not attracting, if people don't feel included, they won't be part of that industry and that thought process anyway. So again, that's why EDI is quite important and something that we do have to look into in our industry.
As all of those differences I've found that are actually advantages. Two sides to every coin, as they say,
Exactly.
But can I ask you then, Danny, because you've acted as chair of the Engineers Ireland Inclusion and Diversity Society, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned about trying to lead that cultural change across the industry?
Oh, a lesson I would have learned now. There's a lot of support out there. There's a big collective of support. And it's just harnessing that. That's the real big lesson of that anyway. And now you're going to feel a lot of barriers and challenges facing that. But when there's a collective behind you and there's good research behind you as well, you can forward a lot of that through anyway. And the good thing is a lot of companies are really EDI mindful now, and they tie in and sponsor it as well.
Now, you are an associate director at DBFL Consulting Engineers. Kind of want to learn a little from you about moving up the ladder and going from, engineer to a leader. Do you think people skills plays a big a part in that?
It would indeed anyway, particularly in my industry, because you're facing the public a lot. You have to talk to politicians, you have to talk to multiple different types of groups. But again, also internally, you do have to speak with your colleagues from different departments. You also have to talk to different organizations as well. If you're on a multidisciplinary team to drive a project through. And of course, when you're going up the ladder as well, you're managing people and you have to communicate and also mentor them as well. And then, of course, you have to communicate your ideas as well and your problem solving in presentations to clients, into your colleagues as well. So yeah, it's a communication and interpersonal skills is a real big thing anyway.
And where do you learn these skills? Do you pick them up from other people? Do you do some research yourself? Do you do a course?
For me, anyway, it was learned anyway. As I said, there was 9 years I was an activist anyway, so there was a lot of public speaking. Like I was on prime time twice, so I was fine with that. Yeah. But no, it is an acquired skill that you do have to learn anyway, and then you also have to learn different people. Personality styles that you have to communicate to, audiences you have to communicate to, and what you're trying to translate as well. So it is that. Now, I've mentored a lot of people and they did find benefit to going doing the courses as well, leadership courses and kind of speaking courses.
So you've mentioned that you are mentoring people. In which way do you do that?
So I mentor people internally in DBFL. So we have a great graduate development program where someone that's just finished college, they just join the development program and they develop their skills over 4 years in the aim of being chartered anyway. So I'm with those people for 4 years and seeing where can we help them get their skills, and I'm sitting in with them quarterly anyway and trying to help them get to chartership anyway and build that career to be a more senior person and a good high-level professional. And then as well, on top of that, in DBFL, we also have a Beyond Chartership program where people that want to go into senior leadership programs, you get a link up with people that are recently chartered, and you help them to see what's the skills you need to be more senior or get to a higher level in your career. And also, my mentoring doesn't stop there anyway. I also mentor in the colleges because a lot of students, they really want to know what's it like in the industry anyway, and what do they really need to focus on in college. I know myself, when I was going through college, it was 6 years of, right, I had no in this, there was no engineering in my background. Just gone in just because I loved engineering, but I had no idea what it was like in the actual industry. And I would have loved to have spoken to someone in the profession to tell me about it. So I'm actually doing that now, particularly with UCD, where I just link up with students, and for half the year I would just have these meetings with them, and they'd ask me, what is it like in the industry? What should I do in college? What's it like abroad? Chartership, everything like that. So it's invaluable anyway, that mentorship.
If somebody is listening now and they're kind of going, okay, I would love to have a mentor, because it's great to talk to somebody who's like a few years or 10 years ahead of you. And I found that people who are ahead of you are far more giving because they don't see you as a threat. And they love kind of going, come on, I'll take you under my wing, that kind of a thing. If you're looking for where do you look for a mentor? Or do you have to go to a special place, sign up for a special course? Or can you find somebody who's in your workplace and just say to them, do you know what? I'd be really honored if you were a mentor for me.
Well, a lot of organizations do have these mentorship programs, but again, there's nothing stopping you going to a colleague that you really admire and say that, look, can you just tell me a bit of advice? I was in the engineering magazine recently anyway, and I was just saying about my peer mentor, who's a female director in DBFL, and I always go to her for advice and everything like that, even at a senior, an associate level. There's nothing wrong with that. And then when you're in college, I think if there are programs like the one in UCD, as I mentioned anyway, where you link up with professionals. But again, if you know someone in the industry, you can ask them that advice as well. It's invaluable. And yeah, there's mentors all around us and role models, and it's invaluable that seeing that talking to these people and seeing that, look, they did it, and I can do it too.
Just before we wrap up, sustainable transportation is your thing. If you were to look ahead for the next 5 years or the next 10 years even, what do you think is going to be the biggest positive change in that sector coming?
I think the biggest positive change would be we're coming in with a lot of major projects anyway, be it Dark Plus, Metrolink, we're getting Lewis down in Cork, we're getting the Bus Connects networks all across the regional cities as well. So I think there's going to be once they're built anyway, or they're going to be a major change in public transport anyway. And in an active travel, we do see a large base in kids anyway coming along that are very active in walking and in cycling where it is provided, and we need to encourage them to go into doing that in their secondary school and into college and then into the work life, that it's going to be part of their lives anyway. So that's where I see things happening. And then also in sustainable transport, it's always evolving. There's always innovation coming up. So there's going to be things like intelligent mobility hubs that will be coming online. There'll possibly be drone technology coming online, and e-commerce that we all have to think about in the future anyway. And also electric vehicles as well.
What about the intelligent mobility hubs? That sounds interesting. What is it?
So these intelligent mobility hubs, anyway, they're like glorified car parks, as I would say. But it's putting, say, if you want to have higher density neighborhoods, one way of doing that is concentrating all of the parking into one area, or putting all of the mobility needs of that little neighborhood into one area. So there'll be more apartments being built there. And also you can go there and say that I want to have a car parking space here, and just you can rent it out or something like that intelligently. Yeah. Or it could be a company coming in and renting it out for the day, and then it'll be brought back again. You'll also have your shared mobility there, car hubs or clubs and car shares, car rentals as well, bike rentals and bike shares. And you'll have kind of other amenities like electrical EV charging, possibly drone hubs as well. And there's also a lot of logistics companies that might want to avail of that they could have a drop-off center there, or they can use their drop-off centers. So there's a lot in terms of that. Anyway, we did a lot of research in that here in DBFL down in the Cork Docklands. So they'll be coming online quite soon.
It sounds amazing. You also mentioned electric cars. I believe they're going to stop selling petrol cars in 2035, which is, it's only 10 years away. But still, people aren't really getting excited about electric cars, even though we see more and more of them. And still, we have range anxiety. And so one thing I hear about my friends, and I'm thinking of buying a new car, and I go, I don't know if I want to buy an electric car because, that's one of the things. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, it's fine. You just need to plan it a little in that you time your trip to the place where you top up your car. At the moment, it's a petrol station. It takes 2 minutes to top up a car. Do you think we're ever going to get to something like that with an electric car? Or will you still have to wait for 20 minutes or even up to an hour?
No, there's a lot of companies developing fast charging. So it would be in a couple of minutes anyway, I would see in the future. And electric, but we need the infrastructure as well. So that's going to be another big thing that we'll be doing in the future, providing that infrastructure for charging the electric vehicles. And of course, we need a huge fleet of electric vehicles as well to come in. But that's not the full answer anyway. We a sustainable future is that they're one part of the solution anyway. There's also active travel. There's also public transport. It has to be kind of sustainable opportunities for everyone. It's just not a one solution fits all.
Okay, you're a big thinker, Danny, and it's been absolutely fascinating chatting to you. I actually feel like I've been just glimpsing into the future for our conversation today. So listen, thank you very much. If you'd like to learn more about Danny's work in sustainable transport and diversity, check out the links for DBFL and Engineers Ireland Society in the show notes. But for now, Danny Pio Murphy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation today. If you know an engineer who would appreciate these insights, please do share the podcast with them. They can find us simply by searching for Engineers Ireland wherever they listen to podcasts. This episode is produced by dustpod.io for Engineers Ireland. For advanced episodes, more information on the latest trends in infrastructure or career development advice, you'll find a wealth of resources on the website at engineersireland.ie. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, thank you for listening.